Perfect.
We're on. Okay. I am Paul Gillum from Astoria, Oregon. My job during the Goonies was to help the locations and the security of the personnel and being a staff member, just helping in general to everybody involved. They were absolutely wonderful. They were probably the friendliest people I have ever worked with. I was in absolute awe of both of them together when I first met them. Just knowing who they were, it was exciting to get to meet them. And then once I got to meet them and work with them, it was just such a wonderful experience. They would actually show you what they needed done, and it was like a family. And it was just really interesting. And to be a part of being involved in the staff meetings, finding out what was going on, actually seeing the movie as it was being filmed, and then seeing it the next day was really exciting. It was so interesting. The kids were wonderful to work with. They were funny. They were always active. They were always doing something off the wall, when they weren't being filmed. They were fun. As far as the adults, Mr. Spielberg was wonderful to work with. Again, I was in awe of him, so every time he spoke, I would just listen. I didn't talk. He was so friendly. Mr. Donner, he was wonderful to work with. I so thoroughly enjoyed being around him. He knew what he wanted to see in the film, and he would work and work and work until it was perfect for what he wanted. And he would work at it. And sometimes he would be funny when he told somebody to do something. Sometimes he would be a little harder with them if they weren't going to get it. But he was always almost like a fatherly figure, where he would chastise you if you needed it, if you needed to be in trouble, or he would praise you when you needed it. One of the people that I worked really well with was the location manager, Tony Amatullo. And Tony he liked perfection. It had to be just right. And he and I got along very well. He was fun to work with. He was exciting. He was always exciting. Always had something going, some idea that he knew Mr. Donner would love, and it always worked. He would call me at home on a weekend, and we would go out. We did one scene, never made it into the film. He called me on a Sunday afternoon and says, "Let's go do some helicopter shots." It was the last day that they were going to have the helicopter, and Nick the cinematographer needed to get pictures now or you're not going to get them. And so we took the police cars out and the Jeep with some stunt drivers, and Tony and I were in the police cars or in the Jeep, and the stunt guys were in the police cars following us. We did trips across the bridge and back, and lights and everything. We surprised a lot of people. And you must understand that the bridge to Washington from Astoria was a toll bridge at that time. So we had to go through the toll booth. And Tony handed the lady at the toll booth the money and says, "And there should be enough for my friends behind me." And off we went. And we went into the next town, which is Ilwaco, across the bridge, and surprised the people there. And turned around and came back and did the same thing, and did scenes, around Astoria because they had the helicopter. And they were exciting. It was fun. But that's Tony, I think I had the most fun with. He was so professional, but he was also fun to be with. And we just seemed to hit it off. It wasn't so much the funny anecdote with the kids. It wasn't so much. They were just always doing something. Just always. Okay? Yeah, they were just being kids. And when they weren't filming, they were just being kids. And they were being kids where Mom and Dad weren't taking care of them so much that Mark had to watch them, Mark Marshall. And they were having fun in another town, and they hadn't quite realized, I don't think, that they were actually movie stars. And they were just having fun being kids. And the most funny anecdote, I think, that I have, it's not with the kids, it's with Mr. Spielberg, is when actually up at where you're staying, Fred, up at the Goonie house, where we had the shots that were fired just before we were starting to shoot one day. And Mr. Spielberg came up, and I had already gotten everybody off the set, made sure they were gone, so they were safe. And Mr. Spielberg insisted, "I'm going up to the house." And I insisted, "No, you're not." He insisted, "Yes, I am." I insisted, "No, you're not." So I put him in my car and we went up. I had to back up the hill. I backed the car up the hill to make sure he was safe. And but he had to see what was going on. And it turned out it was a young fella that lived up the street that was shooting at birds on a wire. He had no idea that there were people up there. He was just, it was in October, and he was just, before he went to school, saw these birds on a telephone wire, and he was shooting at them. Just had to be in our direction. So that's really one of the funniest ones. One of the other funny ones is the with the police cars. When they went down a hill and they were supposed to stop, they were doing part of the chase scene, only it was just the cars. You couldn't see the Jeep or anything. It was just the cars. And they were going down the street, and I told them to stop at a certain intersection. They missed the intersection, went to the next one, which was an active street. And they went in between the cars as they were coming up and down the hill. And it scared the stunt drivers. So, I mean, it's funny now, yeah, but I was cringing because I could see it. So, yeah, they didn't show that in the film, but it was for real. They had one of the police cars that was supposed to be in the chase scene was in fact right out on the pier over here. On this pier right here. And on 37th Street. And they actually had to get permission. It was a totally stripped down car. And no fuel, no engine, none of that. They had to shoot it off and shoot it off the pier and into a boat. And it worked. To me, it looked great. It really looked great. They just couldn't use it in the film. It was fun to watch them doing it. They had a lot going on the pier at the time. We had the shot with the fisherwoman at in the fish tank, and that was going on also. That's what was supposed to be going on when it went into the boat. So I can't. I was not involved in that part at all. It really didn't get off the ground, and so Tony Amatullo was not going to get involved in that one. It didn't really get off the ground. They were thinking about it. They were talking about it. They tried some shots. I believe it was the second unit that was doing that. There were two units, first and second unit. Mr. Donner was directing the first unit as a rule, and the second unit was doing. The second unit usually does the action scenes, and that's what was going on there. But it never really got off the ground. So with the apes. And quite frankly, looking back at it now, it didn't make sense either. out in the golf course with apes, and Kurt Hansen was involved in that. He didn't seem too excited about it either. So, believe it or not, I don't own the film. No, my son does, but I have never. I've never done that. You know, no. As far as bad experiences, I never felt taken advantage of. I never got yelled at. If something wasn't satisfactory, they would just simply let you know. And it was so professional. I just so thoroughly enjoyed it. No, I can't think of any bad experiences that I really had, no. Everything was so planned out that if something came up and they needed someplace else to go, I was able to help them with it, which was wonderful. And to do something that they wanted to do that would take a little bit longer, it was never an issue. They'd just come to me and ask, we need to do this. Is this possible? And I said, we'll make it happen. And it was simple as that. We'll just make it happen. If you need it, we'll make it happen. And it worked. It worked very well. And as far as the city went with me working with them, there was never an issue either. If I needed something, if the film needed something, I didn't even need permission. I had permission to do whatever was needed. And it was really very nice. It really was. I never got any negative feedback from it at all. Not from the public either, which was surprising with the traffic. What a traffic nightmare sometimes. But the people didn't complain. The public didn't complain because they were having so much fun watching it that nobody cared. It was really that interesting.
There was a lot of people watching.
There were people at distances. Well, yeah, you could see it from anywhere. Everything was right out in public. I mean, it was a secret set, but it wasn't so secret that people didn't know they didn't know what was going on. It was just so interesting. It was fun, and so nobody complained. Oh, you get once in a while somebody wanted to go somewhere and couldn't get there on time, but it was nothing major at all. It was wonderful. I like it. It's fun. When we were making it, I didn't understand it so much. I still haven't figured out why it is such a popular film, but I think that's because I was involved with it, and I'm looking at it from a different angle as a lot of the fans are. And I lived it when they were making it. I've grown up around here, so I understand what was going on. And politics is normal. That's what it is. It's political. The movie is. And it's always the underdog. And people feel that way. And that's why it's been such a big hit, I think.